DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations, are in the news a lot these days. Whether it's a DeFi DAO making decisions about where to set interest rates, or a charity DAO pooling money together to support a cause like legal aid for embattled journalist Julian Assange, DAOs are increasingly providing a way for people who share common interests, but often little else and often don't even know each other, to pool their resources and accomplish something. This morning, there's an interesting story we're looking at right now that's not really what you'd expect. According to CoinDesk, Sundali Hundagama, a digital economic zone backed by the Catawba Indian Nation in Rock Hill, South Carolina, wants to recognize decentralized autonomous organizations as either unincorporated nonprofit associations or limited liability companies. That's according to draft rules that were published yesterday. The draft, which runs about 12 pages, is actually pretty interesting, but it's also fairly dry. So if you're a DAO wonk out there, recommended you find that link in the article and read through it yourself. But really what this does to me is it starts to lay out the process for what kinds of information and compliance is going to be required to run a DAO as a legal entity in the United States, but without notably falling under rules set by state or federal authorities. That's because the federal government in the United States typically recognizes Indian tribes as distinct governments with the same level of powers as federal and state governments to regulate their own internal affairs. And that reality stands in pretty sharp contrast to the other state, or to the state in the U.S., so of Wyoming, which also passed similar legislation some years back, but has been struggling to reckon how that works relative to the federal laws that companies incorporated there would also fall under. So, I don't have to go on about this story, but it's interesting to me as a runaround here, right? Like, this is a way that you potentially can do a lot of stuff here without having to wait to get clarity from the feds, so long as you can put yourself into that situation, which it seems like very much is what they're looking to do. Jen, I'll throw this one to you first.
Yeah, I just want to give our audience a little bit of background on the Catawba Digital Economic Zone, because I didn't actually know about it until this morning. So they're calling this jurisdiction a jurisdiction built for Web3 that allows companies to remotely incorporate under their laws. So you don't even need to go there. You can incorporate online. They promise a legal framework that won't slow down progress, committing to regulatory meetings every 2 weeks so that regulation can match and move as quickly as innovation. The community meets on Discord, and there's a regulatory sandbox that's protected by the U.S. treaty obligation. This all sounds great, right? This all sounds like what we've been calling for. I don't know, Adam, is this new? I don't know why we haven't heard about it before.
So the economic zone is not new, but this set of draft rules specifically about DAOs, and they're DAO LLCs or DAO, I forget what the acronym is, but they're DAO unincorporated nonprofits, basically. Those are the two things. So it's actually a new type of company, or two new types of companies under this. So that's the reason why we're seeing this, is because previously this had existed, but it hadn't had these specific rules around DAOs. And now that we're starting to see them, we're seeing interesting things, including, like identifiers that the nation is going to effectively use to recognize who is actually a member of the DAO and other things. Yeah, back to you, Jen.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And so I think the economic zone as a whole needs a better strategy to get DAOs and get Web3 companies involved. I went to their Discord channel this morning. There are 49 members. They're asking people to read through these draft rules, provide feedback. Anyone can provide feedback, whether you're a company, a DAO participant, a DAO founder, just someone who has a lot of opinions. And so when I read stories like this, I really urge people in the community who call for these types of regulations, call for these types of conversations, to join the channels and participate. So please, everyone, go and do that. That's the only way that we get regulation. The way they're thinking about DAOs in this is also very interesting. I've said on the show before, right now, DAOs are just like a really interesting and innovative way to manage a treasury. We haven't really figured out how DAOs can participate in real world contracts. We've seen some DAOs, incorporate as LLCs in the United States so they can enter into real world contracts, but that comes with its own challenges on the legal front and also on the organizational front. And so this is really interesting. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think we might see some interesting innovation and precedent come from this. And so I think it's awesome. Zach, what do you think?
I think tribal sovereignty is really cool. I think this fits into the broader picture of smaller municipalities courting crypto technologies, right? Whether it's the Marshall Islands, or whether it's the Catawba people in South Carolina, or whether it's cities. Niagara Falls, New York comes to mind. I think some municipalities, governments nations, be they tribal nations or other, they're courting these technologies as a way to foster economic development and help the people where they are. So I think it's interesting to see tribal involvement here. We saw some news out of, I think it was out of the West, I forget which state, but about, native tribes sort of mining Bitcoin as a way to boost economic opportunity in their nation. So that stuff is really interesting to me. And I think it's notable that, we're seeing this as an economic development tool, right? Hey, this is an industry that may not be embraced elsewhere. Let's do it. We've assessed the risks, and for our people, it makes sense, right? Whether that's the state of Wyoming or again this sovereign tribe here in South Carolina. I think that's interesting to see, and I think we're going to see more of it as time progresses.